Good evening, everyone. As we begin this meeting, I'll ask everyone to please silence cell phones and other electronic devices and remind council that our procedure bylaw prescribes the use of technology during council meetings. It's 6:31 p.m. I'll call this meeting to order. As we begin our meeting, I acknowledge that we are gathered on lands that have been inhabited by Indigenous peoples from the beginning. We respectfully acknowledge that the Mississauga and Anishinaabe have been the stewards of this place. As we hear the truths behind our shared history, reconcile them with our past and with who we are today, we acknowledge that we are working toward right relations as good treaty people. In particular, we are thankful for our partnership with our neighbors from the Alderville First Nation. I have a motion moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Councillor Wheeldon, that Council amend the May 21st, 2024 Council agenda to add staff report, award of RFQ PW 2023-11 to section 10.8. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? Being none opposed, that motion's carried. And a motion moved by Councillor Fredis, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson, that Council approve the May 21st, 2024 Council agenda as amended. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. Members of Council, do you have any declarations of pecuniary interest? And if so, please state the general nature thereof. And there are none noted. Are there any announcements this evening? Councillor Wheeldon.
Thank you. Just a reminder to everyone that Accessibility Awareness Day is on Friday, May 31st in Memorial Park, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Join us for interactive activities highlighting the importance of accessibility in our community. Should be an interesting time. Please come on out.
I think that's in my calendar, but give me the times again, please.
That's from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Friday, May 31st.
Thank you. Councillor Fredis.
To members of the council and senior staff, because we're going to be putting you in various devices so that you can experience the whole accessibility thing, we'd like you to be there by 10:30.
I've made a note of it. Thank you. Are there any other announcements? Councillor Rowley.
Thank you, Mayor. So last Wednesday was a pretty busy evening for both the deputy mayor and I and some council members and some staff members. We bowled for kids' sake, and should say I think that we raised between staff, council members, I believe the fire department, they had a pretty good team too, nearly $3,000 for Big Brothers Big Sisters of Northumberland. I also received a text today, talk about fundraising. The Smile Cookie campaign this year, dollars were going to the playground for Smithfield. And that group worked their cookies off. They raised over $14,000 in a week. So kudos to them.
Indeed, that's a lot of cookies. I think I ate about $7,000 worth, so it makes sense, actually. Good work. Thank you. And thank you all for the bowling and for representing at the curling club and at the mutual aid meeting for the fire department. I was at the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence Cities Initiative conference, which was an interesting conference about shoreline sustainability and shoreline communities in both Canada and the United States. Interesting dynamic when you add other provincial interests and then our American friends into the mix, and realize that for all the snide comments we sometimes make about our friends to the south, they're not dumb about their waterfronts and their waterfront rehabilitation and how they get their funding directly from the federal government. So I've said it before, I'll say it again, we need a better constitutional deal as municipalities, but that probably won't happen in my lifetime, so we're going to move on. Any other announcements? Go ahead.
I do have one more. Just a quick one. Deputy Mayor Anderson and I also attended the curling club annual general meeting last week, where the deputy mayor presented the president this year a certificate for their 60 years of leadership at the curling club. So that was also nice. It's a nice evening for us to both be there.
And a packed house by the show of the photo. So thank you for that. Yeah, good. Any other announcements? Going on to the adoption of the minutes with a motion moved by Councillor Wheeldon, seconded by Councillor Wright, that council adopt the May 6, 2024 council meeting minutes as presented. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? Being none opposed, that motion's carried. A motion moved by Councillor Fredis, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson, that council adopt the May 13th, 2024 council planning meeting minutes as presented. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. We have no public meeting this evening. We have no delegations or presentations this evening. Madam Clerk, are you aware of any citizens' comment this evening? Brings us to staff reports. The first report is scope changes to the design for the upgrade to the wastewater treatment facility. Well, I'll thank you in advance for that. Sorry. Director Whiteman, do you have anything to add or highlight, sir?
No, I do not.
Thank you. Motion is moved by Councillor Wright, seconded by Councillor Wheeldon, that council approve the scope changes to J.L. Richards for the design of the wastewater treatment plant for a total increased amount of $406,923.99, including the expense portion of the HST. Is there any discussion from members of council? Councillor Fredis.
Through the chair, thank you. As this is part of the whole scope of changes to the upgrade of the wastewater treatment facility, and in light of the fact that some new information just came to light when this agenda came out last Thursday, I would like to move that we defer the whole subject area to a special meeting to be held sometime between May 27th and June 3rd. In order to allow staff to corral all of the expertise that they need and to ensure we have all of staff and all of council available so that we can review and get all the detailed insights on the timeline and implications of the project. And I guess further, we should also talk about a contingency plan if some outside funding doesn't come through.
Or a seconder for that referral? Councillor Wright. Here's what I've drafted, that the Public Works report scope changes to design for the upgrade to the wastewater treatment facility be referred to a special council meeting to be called before June 3rd, 2024. Is that work for you as a motion? As a seconder, Councillor Wright? I'll go ahead for discussion, but you're only discussing the referral, not the report.
Right. I'm just wondering if the referral should also indicate that all senior staff be available and that staff reach out to get all the relevant experts from J.L. Richards and whoever they feel appropriate to help provide us with the detailed insights and implications of the project.
Do we need that in a motion, CAO, or is staff understand that what council is looking for would be a special council meeting to discuss the wastewater treatment facility? And that would require all the design folks in the room, perhaps a presentation to council, to give us some background work to better understand how we've come down this particular path.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think we've got the motion. We can make sure that all of that is taken care of.
Are you comfortable with that? Thank you. Anything further on the motion? All those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. Next report is Public Works Report, commemoration of the RCAF Centennial. And Director Whitman, we've read your report. Do you have anything to add or highlight, sir?
No, I do not.
Thank you. I have a motion moved by Councillor Wheeldon, seconded by Councillor Wright. The Council of the Municipality of Brighton approves placing the RCAF 100 crosswalk to commemorate 100 years of service of the RCAF at the intersection of Division Street North and Main Street in Brighton. Is there any discussion? When that is done, would you please let me know? I would like to invite the base commander and any others who wish to come to open the sidewalk, so to speak.
Will do.
Thank you. All those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. The next is the Hops Kiln Barn relocation. We've read your report, Director Whitman. Do you have anything to add or highlight, sir?
No, I do not.
I have a motion. Thank you. I have a motion moved by Councillor Fredis, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson. The council received the staff report dated May 21st, 2024 regarding the relocation of the Hops Kiln Barn. And the council accept the waiving of any related building permit fees through the transfer from the grants and aid budget to the building reserve. And further, that the relocation of the Hops Kiln Barn onto municipal lands be deemed as a municipal project for purposes of the Municipal Development Charges Bylaw and accordingly is exempt from development charges. Is there any discussion? Councillor Fredis.
Through the chair, thank you. I could be incorrect in my recollection, but I don't think we have any funds in grants and aid budget left.
I don't see anyone here who could definitively answer that question. CAO?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Fredis, I will speak with our treasurer and get back to you to confirm what may or may not be available in that budget.
So if we pass this motion and there's no money in grants and aid, we would have to have this come back to council for.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, subsequently, we could add some wording to indicate that it could be taken from the contingency reserve. If that's council's wish.
Members of council? Contingency? So if I add the words or contingency reserve? And that's okay with you as the mover, Councillor Fredis? And you as the seconder, Deputy Mayor? Thank you. Anything further from members of council? All those in favor? Being none opposed, that motion's carried. That keeps the project moving forward. Our next report is suitable locations for the planting of tiny forest kits. Director Whitman, we've read your report. Do you have anything to add or highlight?
No, I do not.
Thank you. I have a motion moved by Councillor Fredis, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson. The council approves the recommendation from the Environmental Sustainability Advisory Committee and directs staff to place one tiny forest kit provided by the Lower Trent Conservation Authority on either side of Harbor Street at the intersection of County Road 64. That's not going to work if there's just one. Or can they be split up? Councillor Wheeldon.
Thank you. They are designed to be one complete small forest. It's 4 meters by 4 meters, so it's not a terribly large thing. And it doesn't necessarily need to be on both sides. When we thought there was going to be 2 tiny forest kits, we thought one on either side, but having one on one side is just fine. We were not able to secure 2.
So we should alter this motion to read at the Harbor Street County Road 64 intersection and not talk about either side. Is that okay with you, Councillor Fredis? And Deputy Mayor is the seconder? Thank you. So I've made that change to at the Harbor Street and County Road 64 intersection. Any questions or comments from members of council? All those in favor? Being none opposed, that motion's carried. The next report is Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Policy Review. Manager Smith, we've read your report. Do you have anything to add or highlight?
No, I do not.
Thank you. I have a motion moved by Councillor Wright, seconded by Councillor Wheeldon, that council receive the report regarding the incorporation of EDI language and practices into the municipality's existing policies, procedures, and practices, and direct staff to draft a policy and/or statement on EDI. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. YMCA 5-year lease. CAO, we've read your report. Do you have anything to add or highlight?
Sorry, if I may, Mr.
You
Mayor,
may.
before we go to that, I just confirmed that there is $36,000 in the grants and aids fund, so we will be able to take it from there, just so council's aware.
Thank you. Appreciate
And no,
that.
sir, I have nothing to add.
Thank you for that as well. I have a motion moved by Councillor Wright, seconded by Councillor Fredis, that council approve the execution of a 5-year lease agreement with YMCA Northumberland for a portion of the Brighton Health Services Center located at 170 Main Street at the municipality of Brighton. Is there any discussion? Councillor Fredis.
Through the chair, thank you. I thought it would be good that we perhaps have the conversation again and for the benefit of our new CAO, recap some of prior deliberations that this council went through. The realtor consultant that was retained determined that we were undercharging for the square footage for the lease. We were only charging for 4,918 square feet, but there was no provision for the common area or their share of the common area. So the number should be more like 5,479 square feet. Additionally, I guess the major concern is the necessity for the donation or the grant of $30,000. When we looked at YMCA's financials over the period of 2017 to 2022, their gross profit was 504, 558, 583, 500, 1.2 million in 2021, and 800,000 in 2022. I recently had occasion to download their 2023 financial statement, and I note that they basically broke even. They made about a $22,000 profit. And in looking at their financial statements, they accomplished that by increasing amortization by a couple of $100,000, which is a non-cash expense. But more significantly, wages went up from $4,088,000 to $5,109,000. So they increased wages by over $1 million. And I have to wonder, how many more people that they hired and how big an increase the folks here in the Brighton facility got, or is a large part of that executive compensation? Additionally, what we pay for physicians is less than what the Y is asking. And, you know, the Y attends to 400 clients, but we expect physicians to roster 1,000 patients, and we have more than 1,000 unrostered orphan patients in Brighton right now. And finally, our grants and aid budget has three configurations: 1,000, 5,000, and 20,000. We don't even give Trenton Hospital more than 20,000. I'm having a difficult time in my mind justifying why we would give these folks $30,000 because I'm not a primary healthcare service provider. I would like to refer the matter back to the CAO for hopefully some further and more fruitful negotiations that gets it more in line with our general grants and aid policy, reflects the square footage differential, and gets them to invest in their own satellite facility. I should also add that in 22 and 23, they received 760, 150, $800,000 plus from the provincial government. I'm not aware of any of that money being reinvested in the Brighton facility. It all went into the Coburg facility. So I can't support this proposal as it currently stands.
Councillor Rowley?
Thank you, Mayor. I guess I must have missed something because I thought that during budget deliberations and when we had our initial presentation from Eunice, that they were going to come back with another presentation before we agreed to signing any lease with them. So I just don't know what part of the process that I missed somewhere. I might have missed a meeting where they came back, but I certainly don't remember that.
I don't remember firming that up. I remember that sort of being a want, but I don't remember the YMCA committing to it. Coming back.
Okay,
That's my recollection.
okay.
But that doesn't mean we can't bite the back.
I would
Formally.
like to hear. I'm a bit concerned about this as well. I know they're the 30,000, also the extra $10,000 that they were looking for. I have big concerns about that. As I've said previously, during the last 5 years that we expected them to do a little bit of fundraising to kind of help out, and I haven't seen any of that either. I would like to see them come back. And as well, I'm not in favor of signing a 5-year lease agreement at this particular time without some other information.
Thank you. Anyone else care to comment? Councillor Wright?
I agree with Councillor Fredis and Councillor Rowley. I think this needs to go back for some more negotiation and bring this to something that benefits everybody involved, not just the 400 people that are using it currently.
Thank you. Anyone else have a comment? So you're asking for a referral? If it reads that we refer the matter to staff, we refer the report to staff for further negotiations and request a presentation from the YMCA, does that work? And is there a seconder? See what I'm doing here? I have a motion moved by Councillor Fredis, seconded by Councillor Rowley, that, sorry. Council refers the report to staff for further negotiations and request a presentation from the YMCA. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Being none opposed, that motion is carried. Next report is the report and capital project status, CAO. We've seen the spreadsheets. Do you have anything to add or highlight?
No, Mr. Mayor, I do not.
Thank you. I have a motion moved by Councillor Wright, seconded by Councillor Fredis. I have a motion moved by Councillor Fredis, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson, that council receive the report, capital project status update as information. Is there any discussion? Councillor Wheeldon.
I just want to say this is really helpful. Thank you for this.
I concur. Anyone else? All those in favor? Being none opposed, that motion's carried. And 10.8, it was added by amendment. It is Public Works Report regarding award of RFQ PW 2023-11. Director Whiteman, we've read your report, but it came a little late. So I wonder if you could just add some words around this for us, please.
Sure. Yes, Mr. Mayor. This was an oversight on our part. We should have written a report to council last year with respect to this. There was one bidder for the flushing and CTV inspection work. It is to help us with also our inflow and infiltration and our sanitary model moving forward. So it was an oversight on our part. We should have had a report to council.
Thank you for that. I'm assuming the work has started or has been done.
It has started,
Thank you.
not completed yet.
Thank you. I have a motion moved by Councillor Wright, seconded by Councillor Wheeldon, that council approves and awards the request for quotation RFQ PW 2023-11, sanitary sewer flushing, cleaning, CCTV, and trenchless rehabilitation to Sewer Technologies Incorporated, now GFL Environmental Incorporated. Is there any discussion? Councillor Fredis.
Just a quick question to Director Whiteman. This has been budgeted for and we are within budget, correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further from members of council? Councillor Wheeldon.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Whiteman, will this reduce the strain on our current wastewater system?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Wielding, yes, it should. We have to find where the soft spots are, so that's the intention. They've done about roughly $150,000 worth of work at this point, and I've identified some of those spots. So there's still some work to be done.
Thank you. Anything further? Councillor Fredis? Thank you, through the chair, to Director Whiteman. So you indicated you've identified a few locations that are problematic. Does that then mean we'll be implementing the 2017 bylaw and having them correct the situation?
Director.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Fredis. Yes, I think I've answered this once before. We do need some staff to help us with fill out the full complement of our staff within our wastewater area or division. So our intention is to move forward in that regard and to thereby correct some of the situation through the bylaw, I suppose is the best way to put it.
Thank you. Is there a follow-up question?
Yes, to the chair. I presume the additional staffing you're referring to is the compliance officer?
Director.
And do you have a lead on one?
Yes, that's correct, Councillor. I didn't catch the last part of the question.
Do you have a lead on one? Where are we in the hiring process?
I think we do. I don't know how to answer that. We do have internal staff that I think can do that position, but there may be others that come forward from outside as well. So I think we're covered internally.
I think I'm going to turn the mic over to HR Manager Smith
Through you, Mr. Mayor. We're currently in the process of finalizing the position description and assigning a pay grade so that then we can go forward and post the position and fill it.
Thank you. Is there anything further for members of council? And just for council's information, the CIO and I had a brief discussion about this, and this backward looking will stop right about now, I would think, right? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. We have no notices of motions or motions. We have nothing listed under unfinished business, which brings us to bylaws. The first bylaw, the report was referred back to staff. Second bylaw is to prohibit animals at the annual Apple Fest event. It's moved by Councillor Fredis, seconded by Councillor Rowley, that council gives the bylaws first, second, and third reading. Finally passes on this date, being a bylaw to prohibit animals at the Apple Fest event held annually in the municipality of Brighton. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Next is to amend and update bylaw 070-2023, the AMP system, moved by Councillor Fredis, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson. The council gives a bylaws for second and third reading and finally passes on this date, being a bylaw to amend and update bylaw number 070-2023, being a bylaw to implement an administrative monetary penalty system in the municipality of Brighton. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. We have no reports or minutes of advisory committees of council or review teams. We have no reports or minutes of statutory committees, boards, or external agencies. We have no correspondence, direction items, endorsements, communications, or petitions, which brings us to FYI correspondence, which comes to us from the Honourable David Pecuniary, Member of Parliament, Provincial Parliament, Northumberland, Peterborough South. I have a motion moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Councillor Wheeldon, that council receive the correspondence from the office of David Pecuniary, Member of Provincial Parliament, Northumberland, Peterborough South. Is there any discussion? Councillor Wheeldon.
Thank you. I've had a lot to reflect on the last 2 weeks, so I wrote a few words. 2 weeks ago, I made a mistake in this chamber. I let out frustration about our political system in the form of words that, lacking context or further explanation, and in combination with the words of others, could be taken to mean many things. Some interpreted them as charges of corruption or even intent to engage in corruption. And the thought of that had never crossed my mind. And it took me almost a week to realize that some people thought that was what I meant. But I hope it's obvious. That's not what I meant. But I can no longer take that for granted. I've learned that the words we say in this room can travel far and quickly and say things we never intended them to mean. My words were repeated by people with very different intents than mine had been. Some who wanted to tie our operations here to suggestions of misdeeds elsewhere, while others wanted to score partisan points. Some residents indicated that they were embarrassed by this. I certainly felt used by people whose interests have nothing to do with the questions of how Brighton can manage to fund our wastewater needs. It isn't fair to say that I or any of us brought this on ourselves, because the coverage of a few words spoken in frustration morphed into other things altogether. But nonetheless, I had a part in it and have learned a valuable lesson. Sometimes the hardest lessons are the ones you have to learn more than once. I had already learned the hard way to be careful with my words on social media. This place is no different. Our weekly audience of 2 in this room are not the only ones listening. I think of the way that social media is an environment in which we are not only more prone to speak without thinking, but it's become a place where speaking critically and making thoughtless judgments is actually encouraged and rewarded. I think that's also true of legislatures and council chambers and the media who cover them. Chambers like these have long been expected to be the site of partisanship, polarization, and drama. It takes consistent effort to ensure that it's not the case in these chambers, and I'm sorry to have fumbled in that duty. But I want to make sure I don't take the wrong lesson from this. Fear of accidentally saying the wrong thing could easily lead to me saying nothing, and that's worse. If something is wrong, I need to be able to say so, and there's plenty of valid criticism of our political systems to be discussed. Moving forward, my goal is to ensure that I am clear, thoughtful, and humanizing in these discussions, rather than to vent or stay silent. In this case, I hope one outcome is a greater examination of the political systems we've had for generations. Systems made hostile by the partisanship that's long been rotting governments from the inside out. Systems that pit us against each other for critical infrastructure funding. Systems so complicated and competitive that hiring lobbyists is not only logical, but sometimes necessary because even professionals struggle to navigate them. This has been the case for generations and won't change until politicians at all levels can put partisanship aside and start doing the systems reform that's needed. I think we can have that conversation, but it's fraught with proverbial landmines that can be tripped by a stray word. So we need to choose our words carefully. Practically, that might mean me asking for more time to formulate my thoughts, and I apologize in advance for any dead air as I choose my words, but I hope you'll agree that's better than rushed comments or avoiding speaking when I should. I would also ask my colleagues to point out, interrupting me if need be, when I'm out of line or unclear. I have very much appreciated the approach of both our Integrity Commissioner and our Mayor, who have made the point that while we will make mistakes here, the important part is that we deal with them in ways that maintain the public trust in our local government. So while I hope you can all rely on me to be wise, thoughtful, and articulate, I commit that at least you can rely on me to own my mistakes and move forward for the good of the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wheeldon. Any other discussion points? I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge Minister Pecuniary's letter and specifically note here that he opens by providing the municipality with his full support. Minister Pecuniary's support was never in doubt, nor was the relationship between the municipality and his office, council and the minister, or the relationship that David and I have developed over our 2 terms in office and even before his election. It is important to understand that the application to the Housing Enabling Water Systems Fund was, give or take, 300 pages in length, much of which was complex engineering information, which I fully admit I don't understand, and I would not expect anyone at the political level at Queen's Park to fully understand either. The municipality engaged a communications specialist or lobbyist to ensure that our application was understood by those at the staffing level so that it would be more readily and successfully rise to the top of the application process. Our specialist believed that was happening during their tenure with the municipality, which of course has ceased. And words used during the meeting were no doubt regrettable, and I thank you for your comments, Councillor Wheeldon, and pushing those words which would then be used by the opposition and other activist media outlets at Queen's Park was certainly not at all helpful. Finally, I will reiterate that we will, as best we can, leverage our partnership with the province to continue to seek the necessary infrastructure investments for Brighton. Because regardless of which system we end up using and installing, Brighton will need significant funds in order to get this work done. Any further discussion from members of council? All those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. And the Northumberland County updates with a motion moved by Councillor Fredis, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson, that council receive the Northumberland County updates May 13th to 24th, 2024 as information. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? And being none opposed, that motion's carried. That brings us to question period. If there's anyone in the gallery that has a question with anything that appeared on tonight's agenda, you may step forward to the podium. And there's no one on Zoom for that purpose. Thank you. So now read a motion to go into closed session. If council approves the motion to go into closed session, we will end the live video stream, the YouTube stream, and we will not return to the YouTube stream when we come back into the open session. I have a motion moved by Councillor, and we will also take a 10-minute recess after I've read the motion. I've got a motion moved by Councillor Wheeldon, seconded by Councillor Wright. The council resolve itself into closed session May 21st, 2024 at 7:10 p.m. Pursuant to the Ontario Municipal Act, RSO 2001 as amended, Section 239(2)B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, appointment of a committee member to the JEDI Committee. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. Council, we are recessed